and what's been going on in Turkey?
Well, actually, it's more about the potential for Israeli-Turkey conflict inside Syria, for influence inside Syria. So first of all, we'll look at what the two countries perceive as their agenda or their right in Syria. First of all, Erdogan, Turkey, very much a backer of if we can just have the slide, of the HTS Al-Qaeda factions inside Syria that have taken control of Damascus since the 8th of December, are conducting ethnic cleansing programs in pretty much all of Syria. But Erdogan advocates for a unified and stable nation, inclusive of all societal groups, which of course means that he has control of all of Syria, because Syria will be controlled by HTS and the Syrian National Army, which is the former Free Syrian Army, all under control of Turkey, and of course aligned also with Qatar, another controller of the Muslim Brotherhood factions inside Syria. But let's have a look now at what Israel perceives as its agenda in Syria. And of course, Israel is very much along the lines of the clean break doctrine from 1997, which talks about the fragmentation of the region into smaller states. And basically, Israel is using the persecution of the Alawites, the Druze sects, and the Kurds in Syria to create statelets which will effectively still be under the control of Israel, acting as proxies of Israel. And of course, we know now that Russia is effectively in discussions with Israel over Russia consolidating its military bases in the coastal area, red area there, and potentially taking control of that partitioned segment, which would, in inverted commas, give protection for the Alawites that are currently being slaughtered by the Takfiri project, very much of Turkey, although it's a little bit more complex than that. Now, what has been happening recently, we've talked about the fact that Russia and Israel might align to push back against Turkish expansionism in Syria and in the region. But what's happening more recently is that it's actually escalated beyond that. So we've seen, this is a report in my Zionist think tank, in Syria, Turkish presence in military airports and aerial friction with Israel. So what does this actually mean? Yesterday, Israel bombed an area of Syria to the east of Homs, Palmyra and the T4 military base, which were former Syrian Arab Army air bases and military bases. But the red line there shows Israel's potential David corridor, which will extend from the south area, we've talked about it before, the east border with Jordan and Iraq, and eventually Iraq links with the Kurdish settlement in the east and to arrive at the Euphrates in Iraq. This is in plan. So on these two military bases. Now, what is more is that Turkey needs its own to these bases.
Right, Vanessa, I'm really sorry, but your connection is just breaking up so badly that we can't actually. Give us a quick sound check.
Okay. Can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah, no, we can't. So look, why don't you try to restart the connection, and we'll cover another topic, and then we'll come back to this.
Right. Thanks for bearing with us. We'll see if we can get Vanessa later.
Sorry, hold on a second. Let's Vanessa say something.
Is that any better?
That is better. Yes. Okay. So where were we?
Okay. Sorry, we're back to internet problems.
Okay.
Yes. Sorry about that.
No, it's fine. So yeah, what is interesting is that Turkey has been moving its own military advisors into these bases to develop military capability for HTS, for the factions it should have control of a unified Syria. And then if we look at another article that has been published recently, Israel and Turkey on collision course in Syria after Palmyra airstrikes. So again, this points out the fact that Israel was effectively potentially targeting Turkish military in former Syrian Arab army bases in this area. And then from the article, a quote from Nimrod Goran from the Mitveen Institute. Unlike Turkey, which supports a strong, centralized and stable Syria, Israel at the moment appears to prefer Syria fragmented with the belief that it could better bolster Israel's security. So confirmation there. And Netanyahu today put out an announcement that he was to convene a security meeting over Turkish involvement in Syria. So as I said, we seem to be heading to at least some degree of contestation over Syrian territory between Israel and Turkey. And I'm quite sure that the destabilization currently ongoing in Turkey is no coincidence on that basis also. And then in the south, what has Israel been doing? Again, it's been expanding and advancing. This is a headline in the Jerusalem Post today. The IDF engages in firefight with so-called terrorists in southern Syria. In reality, Israel is trying to expand its land grab in the south, and it was pushed back by local fighters in the areas where it's trying to advance. They are now, of course, termed terrorists. And if we have a quick look at the map, you can see the two areas that I'm talking about that were under attack. First of all, in the south there, in a village called Zawaya, west of Dara, that is where Israel is advancing and entrenching, and the bombing of those bases, as I said, in central Syria, which again also demonstrates the extent to which Turkey is also trying to expand into central Syria. And at the same time, in Hmeimim, Russia is moving greater numbers of troops into Hmeimim under the pretext of protecting its own convoys. There are more than 7,000 Syrian Alawites that have gathered in the Hmeimim base for protection. And in fact, the military hardware is being built up around the base. Now, yes, it could be protection for Russian convoys. It could also be the start of that consolidation of Russian military presence in the coastal area and the providing of that pretext of protection for the Alawites and the Christians and even the Sunnis that are opposed to the Takfiri project. So very fluid, a lot of swapping and changing of alliances in order to consolidate power inside Syria with, in my opinion, very little regard for the actual Syrian people, which I guess is pretty normal.
And you think Israel will be involved in some way in this destabilization within Turkey itself?
I think it's too much of a coincidence that it's been kicked off now. I do also think that there's potential that Erdogan is playing a part in this, because by creating the instability, he can bring in emergency law, which then potentially would allow him to make changes in the constitution to extend his presidency beyond the next 3 years, which he's currently not able to do. And also it scuppers the deal with the PKK, the Kurdish so-called terrorist factions, that he was in the process of negotiating. He may well not want that to go through because, of course, it's the Kurdish separatist factions that are under the control of Israel and the US in the northeast that potentially would become that autonomous region linked with Israel. So it's very messy at the moment, and I think a lot of things don't add up. A lot of things are not as they appear initially. So I do think that destabilization that is ongoing in Turkey has a lot to do with what is going on in Syria. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.